This video will give you a quick overview on how to expand your explanations for the AP synthesis essay. One of the biggest issues students have on the AP synthesis essay is developing their explanations. They do a good job on giving the sources that they have and kind of giving a very basic explanation, but consistently we see that that explanation is really just not enough and that some things are left out. There are a couple things you need to remember in order to make your explanations move from just being okay to being great. The first thing you need to remember is to always think about your reader. The reason you're writing and explaining those sources is because you need to explain it to your reader. So if you're thinking about your reader, it will be very helpful. In fact, I would call it you have to write upside down. And I don't mean literally write upside down like these words. What I mean is you have to organize your writing in the complete opposite way of how you normally think. So in our heads, if you were going to write something, you would think through all the issues, you would think through all the evidence, and then you would draw a conclusion. Well, what we do when we write for readers is we turn that upside down. We tell them our conclusion first, that's our thesis statement. We tell them here's the point we're trying to make, and then we give them all the evidence. That's what I mean by writing upside down. So that's one way to help you think better about explaining. But the big issue is this. The goal of your explanation is to make sure that what's making sense about the source lining up with your thesis in your head is transferred to their head. A lot of times you'll read a quote from one of these sources and man, it's just perfect for what you're trying to say. But your reader does not live in your brain and you need to spell it out for them and spell out why that quote is significant, why that source proves your point, and really connect the dots for your reader. I think the best way to understand this is to actually see a few examples of student writing where the explanations are really strong. So it gives you an idea of what those explanations sound like and look like in a synthesis essay. So I've borrowed some of your peers' pieces of writing from earlier timed writings in the year, and we're going to look at some of their sections of explanation and see what it looks like and sounds like. This student did a great job. You can see underlined in the gray is the quote that they used, okay? Why the poor pay more, reports on these businesses, and about one in particular, Charlotte Hill claims, pure profit for JD Byrider, which doesn't reach final payment on nearly half of its Albuquerque sales. If that's all you had, was that quote, it's not enough for me to understand what point they're trying to make on its own. And that's why the explanation that follows here is so important. So see how this explanation adds a lot to our understanding of the quote. It is indeed easy money, but with an extra expense of bad credit and money lost in the future. It is quite certain that the clients are not aware of this before they agree. Governments have not punished the businesses or regulated laws for their robber baron tactics. Once again, the poor are left punished and struggling. The quote in itself did not give us enough information, but now with this explanation, the quote makes sense. And that is the kind of explanation that we're looking for. Let me show you another example. Here's another student essay that did a great job on their explanation. And let me point this part out. They use this. The quote here, white middle-class teenagers continue to prove the importance of context as they try to ignore it. They seize upon the idioms of the black ghetto. Now, they take this quote and they criticize this quote here. And they analyze this quote a little bit, right? It says, many people have started using this language instead of proper English. Phrases like YOLO are now widespread, with many people getting swag, but a much different kind of swag than we're used to. Hint, it involves more stupid looking hats and style. So right there, they kind of gave us some context for what they're trying to say. They gave us an example to help us understand what that quote was saying in a larger context, right? So now they get explaining the connection here. While on social networking sites or the internet in general, I come across people whose grammar is just absolutely atrocious. They capitalize something letters I don't know what it's saying there. They throw abbreviations here and there and are outright ignorant about their shoddy language and refuse to fix it. Long story short, kids from all these different paths all pick up on the latest stupid trends in the war on grammar. So they took a quote that was actually kind of confusing and off-putting for an audience because that quote had a little bit of racial tension in it and some things like that. But through some careful explaining and through kind of picking out the parts of the quote that they wanted you to focus on, they were able to use that quote, explain it to us in a way where it works and we understand. The explanation of the sources you use is probably the most important part of that essay because that's where you show your intelligence and that's where you show your ability to write and your ability to create your own ideas. Everybody's going to have quotes. It's how you explain the quotes that matters.